Welcome to Industry Vancouver, conversations about the residential real estate industry with Andrew Hasman and Jeff Bennett.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
Hey, good. And we've got a special guest today. Jeff, I'm going to let you do the introduction.
Great. We've got Paul Stefansson here from Lightwell Homes. Paul, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what your connection to the industry is.
Great. So I started off life in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, as an actuary in the insurance business. So I'm a big numbers guy like you, Jeff. Then I became an equity analyst and took a company public called Asante. We then decided to move to Asia because it was minus 40 in Winnipeg. We thought Singapore was Asia for dummies. And so we thought we'd fit in English and safe. And so we spent 23 years in Singapore. I was with AXA, an insurance company, and also a big bank, UBS. And so, again, more on the wealth management side. But one thing that's been consistent is I've always invested in real estate. So we bought some in 2009, which turned out very well, buying at a fire sale price, renovation, 5X that one, converted an office to a hotel, again, did very well. Didn't do so well in Sri Lanka, which is a sad story. But, you win some, you lose some, as Andrew and I were talking about. And now that I've come back to Vancouver, I discovered that if you don't have a dog, you don't have kids in school, you don't have team sports, where you don't work, it's very hard to meet people. And so I've come back to working with Lightwell, primarily on the partnerships and education side. And so Lightwell is doing the multiplex thing where we're trying to solve two problems. One problem is to try to provide livable homes for families. If you ask most people the kind of home they grew up in, it probably is, 1,200 square feet, 3 bedrooms, on a good location near a school, and they probably got it at a reasonable price. That's the kind of stuff we want to build. We want to build family-size homes in good areas. What that also does is it solves a problem for the people sitting on those $3-4 million lots in Vancouver West that they can't sell. And so we're really trying to fix two problems. And the last problem we're really trying to solve is for people like myself, when I get tired of this big house, I want to downsize and maybe get some kind of a one-floor option. So that's kind of where I'm at, and a little bit of an introduction to Lightwell. So back to you.
I think it's a great thing. And you all remember the houses we grew up in? We all had to share the bathroom. It was 3 bedrooms, 3 people all having a lineup for the bathrooms. And we had these little tiny closets. It was a one little rancher in West Vancouver where I grew up. And I just remember, I think it was like 1,800 square feet, big lot. And we had the dog. And anyway, how times have changed.
Andrew, it's funny. A lot of times I'll be helping a family sell the long-term home, and it'll be a 2-bedroom bungalow with a half-finished basement, 1 bathroom, and, they had 6 kids, right?
And it all worked. No work.
What?
Yeah, it worked, right? Yeah. Anyway, how times have changed. It's a different world today with these big houses. But anyway, Paul, interesting. And the other thing is Winnipeg. You have any roots back in Winnipeg, or you're long gone from there?
Oh, I still have lots of friends from Winnipeg. So it's a great place. There's only one problem in Winnipeg. It goes to minus 40, for about 2 or 3 weeks in January. And so that winter can be a bit harsh. If you can get away from the winter, it's a great place to live. Really beautiful in the summer. And the one thing it has that I wish Vancouver had a little bit more of is it's always got sunshine.
Yes.
I don't mind the rain. I don't mind the cold. But if it's dark too, that gets a little bit much. But both great cities. And, I know a lot of people. The big innovation we had in our family was my sister added a very long cord. We only had one telephone, and she added a very long cord so that she could take the telephone in the bathroom to have a private call.
Yeah.
So that was our big innovation in our house.
I remember those long cords very well. My wife is from Winnipeg, by the way, so heard all the stories. I went once to Winnipeg in the summer. There were no mosquitoes. It was actually quite lovely. Went to Gimli, and I thought it was actually a very nice little city. But anyway, that's another topic.
Nice, for sure. Yeah. I was just going to say, tell us a little bit about Lightwell. They're a developer, obviously, in town. They're concentrating on sort of that medium-sized multifamily development. Anything you can tell us about the principles involved, or, a little bit of the history of the company?
So James Livingston and Randy Chang sort of came together to, look at, originally at the time they were looking at it, the best opportunity looked like duplexes, because you had a relatively short development runway, maybe 9 to 12 months to get the permits, then a year to build, and then maybe a year to sell. So you're in and out in 3 years. Multiplex came along, and I think that's a better densification. And so the ability to take one home and put 6 homes there really increased the value add. Because if you think about it, what determines the value of real estate? It's really what you put on it. What's the best value you can get? And so that's really what they were trying to do, was add value. They also partnered with Jonathan Ames on the property acquisition side, and then Eric Wong, who's more on the design and the marketing and sales and so on. I've sort of joined them again on the partnerships and education side, because it does require a little bit of education, because you are kind of changing the way people live, right? It is a different way to live. It's kind of, almost a little small community where there used to be one house. But I think that, multiplex really is the single family home of the future.
We've certainly, Paul, seen that. And when we look at the families that have been living in the larger homes and then maybe down to just 1 or 2 people, the biggest hurdle that we've come across, just as you've mentioned, is we've had fourplexes, we've had triplexes, we've had duplexes built in these single family areas. And by and large, the kids are all coming to take a look. They want to live close to their parents. And they say, oh, well, it's not really this kind of thing. We haven't really seen this in this area before. We're not really that familiar with this kind of product. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's brand new. It's half the cost of a new house. It's got everything in it that you would possibly need. And it's in the neighborhood that you're familiar with and that you really like. What's not to love about it? But as you say, there needs to be some education around it about what it is and how it fits into the Vancouver real estate landscape.
We're sort of seeing them pop up all over the city now. I mean, 2 years ago, it was almost non-existent when the new rules were enacted. Now, you turn the corner onto a street and all of a sudden you see this big thing being built, and you can tell it's got multiple units to it. And so like Jeff said, and you had said as well, Paul, it's educating the buyers. And I think it's a great way for younger people with limited budgets to get back into neighborhoods where they just were priced out completely. I mean, we saw neighborhoods and streets vacant. There was no vibrancy there. The kids had all left. This allows them to come back where they can buy a home now that's much more affordable.
And also, Andrew, I think, and Paul, you'll chime in on this too, is that you're also offering different types of living. We go back to the idea of the 1-level home for somebody who's been in a house for a long time. Maybe they still want to stay in some kind of a ground-oriented, low-density or medium-density living arrangement, but they want to have it all on one level. They want to have close proximity to the parks and the doctors and the restaurants and the services that they're accustomed to, and maintain being in that community and not be in a big, tall high-rise, but just they want to move on to something that's similar, but a little bit different and in a lot of ways better.
They want their own front door. That's what I hear all the time. They don't want to have to walk into a lobby and up the elevator and down a corridor. They want their own front door.
And now here's the shameless plug portion for you, Paul. You've just opened up with a series of open houses, your project Willa. Maybe talk a little bit about that project and what the response was from your first marketing weekend.
The good news is that it was packed. So there were hundreds. I think we got close to 300 people coming through there during the open house, and also the open house for friends and family. So I think it has been very well received. I think one of the things that people were impressed with was the quality of the finishing. Randy, who is our builder, really pays attention to the quality of the finishing. So it's all engineered hardwood, double pane windows. Almost every ceiling is a minimum of 9 feet. Some ceilings are 10 feet, but minimum 9 feet. So it feels quite spacious. One of the things that surprised me was when we staged the 1,500 square foot 1-floor apartment, it actually felt bigger, which I thought if you put furniture in there, it was actually going to be smaller. You guys probably knew that. We got built-in millwork that goes right to the top of the 9 or 10 feet, full laundry rooms, quartz tabletops. So very, very nice. The one that appeals to me the most, because I'm, in that 63-year-old bad knee kind of category, is the 1,500 square foot 1 floor.
Yeah.
But, it's got a nice big patio in the front. It faces on 950 West 57th. It's got living room, dining room, kitchen, all in one nice big space, 3 bedrooms, walk-in closet, ensuite. So it's a really nice feel. 1,500 square feet interior, 310 outside. And then we have bigger ones there that are like 1,800 square feet with a few stairs, and then a laneway in the back. So it's pretty much got something for everybody. It's got that downsizer, It wants the one level. It's got 1,800 square feet for bigger families with 3 bedrooms plus a lobby or a study. So it really satisfies a lot of needs.
And is that 4 or 5 units on that new development?
That's 4. So two
4 units.
1,500 square foot units, and then 2 almost 2,000 square foot units that have stairs, and they're sort of on the second and third floors, and then one laneway in the back. It's about 1,800 square feet.
I drive by there all the time. You guys did a great job on the exterior. I think the design is very, very appealing. It's refreshing. I just love what you guys did on the outside. And I think 350 people to the open house. That is unbelievable. That just shows you how many people are actually watching, right? People are actually just watching to see what this is all about. I mean, real estate is a hobby for so many people in Vancouver. And so when they see something a bit different that's tastefully done, draws a lot of interest.
No, that's for sure. And so go ahead.
I was just going to say it gets back to solving one of the problems, one of the core bottlenecks for real estate in Vancouver, where most of the land is locked into low unit counts, not a lot of people on it, still very expensive, and household sizes tend to be shrinking, demand is diversifying. And when we look at all of that sort of scarcity, it tends to drive the prices up. Whereas if we can unlock some of that density, we can put a few more bodies on more ground-oriented townhouses. What it does is it brings the cost down, puts more people in the community, makes for a better living experience, and lets people live in something new and functional that they don't have to go and swing a hammer every weekend to just make sure that it's not falling down around them.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
There's another big benefit in there. If you think about the thing that most people care the most about, it's our children.
Yes.
Right. And what is the most important thing you can do for your kids to make them financially independent?
Leave money.
Getting them on housing. What? No, that's not the game. That's not getting them money is the bad idea.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is getting them to be homeowners, because Statistics Canada did a study where they showed the average net worth of someone that was a homeowner at 65 versus someone that was a renter. And the net worth is 15 times as big. You know, it's 1.1 million versus $100,000. So there are so many benefits to being a homeowner. And it's very important, if you can, as you said, give them money a little bit to get them on the housing ladder. It's just so critical.
Paul, Andrew and I have been saying for years that after doing this for 30 some odd years, we don't meet a lot of rich renters.
Yeah.
And so that tracks exactly with what you're saying.
Every country. I saw the same thing in Singapore. I saw the same thing in Sri Lanka. I saw the same thing in Winnipeg. And it's obvious because it's got forced savings. The asset can appreciate, you're leveraged, it's tax-free. It just makes so much sense. But I think in Vancouver, it's just been so hard to get on the housing ladder for the average person, right?
Yes.
Now, you know, Canadian real estate has only gone on sale 4 times in the last 55 years. And this is the biggest sale. So this is really the opportunity for those children and anyone to get on the housing ladder now. Nobody knows where it's going to end. But one thing I'm very sure of is the mountains that you guys have in the background of your screensavers or whatever, the ocean, the weather, it's still going to be here in 10 years.
Yes.
You know, and so this is still going to be a place that's going to demand a premium. I don't know how big it is, but this is your opportunity to get into Vancouver at what I think is quite a reasonable price, right?
Long-term, it's a great place to live. There's no question. We're landlocked, and I think long-term property values continue to sort of scale higher, but we're in a bit of a lull, like you said. So great opportunity for people looking to buy now. Jeff and I have been preaching this for the last 6-8 months, but it's, and it really accelerated in the back end of 2025, where property values we saw come down dramatically in some of the pricier areas of Vancouver. And so phenomenal value. So Paul, I have a question, and Jeff will concur with this. We have clients that are sitting on these, 50, 60 foot lot properties. They've been in the homes for 30, 40 years. They're retiring. Are you doing anything whereby, partnering up with any of these homeowners and doing some developments? Is that something that you guys are doing with present homeowners, putting together some sort of a partnership? Is that something that you guys do?
Absolutely. So we have 20 projects going. 6 of them are the partnerships. And so, with partnership, unfortunately, and with any business ventures, you guys understand partnerships involve risks and returns.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that, you are taking some of the risk, and you can decide how much risk you want to take, right? So some people don't want to take the risk and they just want to sell us the lot, right?
Right.
Other people want to partner with us and learn something and also take some of the development risk as well. But remember, certainly property development is a risky business, right? Because you have to do the permitting. You've got to get the right design and figure out what problem you're solving for people, right? You have to make sure that you can build at a reasonable price, but also quality. And you got to know all the little things that you got to put in floor lighting and all sorts of very tiny finishes that make all the difference. You guys would understand all those details, right?
Paul, I think it was Nat Bosa's quote that when you're developing property, 100 things can change. Only one of them is good.
The one advantage you do have now is that because, as you guys said, there's been quite a bit of pressure on land prices. You are not buying at the top right now, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Right. So there is a little bit of leverage in terms of buying land. And one of the things that we've been able to do is buy land with, like every developer wants, with a 12-month closing, which saves you quite a bit of money because you don't have to do the permitting.
Right.
Not necessarily great for the buyer, but if you're becoming a partner, it's probably fine. But that partnership model works really well. And we're really making that work with 6 families right now. So we're always happy to look at it. But if we take a step back, even more important than that, it's got to be the right property, right?
Right.
Because there's 40 something thousand single family homes in Vancouver. We estimate maybe 4,000 of those are kind of like perfect, because there is a lot of criteria that we have when we're selecting those properties. Did you want me to walk through some of that criteria?
That would be awesome.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
This is great information.
So the basics are you got to have R1-1 zoning, which is about 80% of Vancouver. So again, it's a lot of houses.
Okay.
It's got to have lane access because you can't do it without the lane access. It's got to be minimum 33 feet in the front and minimum 3,300 square feet lot size. Can't be a floodplain like where I am in Southlands. That's a no.
Okay.
No heritage sites and no irregular lots. So that's the basics. But what we're looking for is what we think is the best opportunity is from UBC to Oak and a little bit between Fraser and Maine.
Yeah.
Now, part of the reason is the lot size. We want a lot that is at least 50 feet in the front, and can be between 6,000 to 10,000 feet. And it can't really get over that 10,000 feet because as we're talking, we want to get people in at a reasonable price. So we're trying to keep it from 1.4 to 1.9 million, sort of in that under 2 million range. What that means is most of them have to be, they can only be 1,200 to 1,500 square feet. If you're going to sell them, you can only build 6. So you do the math, 1,500 times 6. I don't know how good you guys are at math, but that's 9,000 square feet.
Yeah.
You're kind of getting your maximum, right? It's got to be flat, very flat, no right of ways. And this is one that's really important. There's a poor woman that's stuck between 2 of our developments. Her house is worth too much. We want a house that's worth $10,000, $50,000. We're really just buying the land, right?
Yeah.
And so the house can't have match mailing. What we prefer is a place like Dunbar where there isn't much competition, right? Well, there's not that many choices. I'm always looking at a very small segment of the market, which is Vancouver West townhouses and half duplexes, sort of between that 1.5 to 2.5 million. And I think a lot of people are making mistakes where they're building them a bit too big. And that's going to make it much harder to sell them because, as you guys know, the market goes down. And the last one's a bit of a weird one. I don't know if you know the guy wires that come off of telephone poles.
Yes.
Very well. Yes. So
none of that.
If it's got a guide wire that interferes with the parking, that's a no.
Okay.
So those are kind of the specific criteria that you've got to have. You can send us the street address and we'll give you a very quick yes or no answer. Yes, no, or maybe. We're more interested if you do have that partnership where someone wants to work with us, because that makes everything easier, right? So we are looking actively for partners, but they have to kind of meet that first criteria. And we're happy to have a quick look as we did yesterday, Andrew, right? And your piece was just way too big, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That makes total sense. I got another question for you. What about all the trees? You know, obviously the tree bylaws and this and that. Do trees impact whether you would do something or not? Or how does the city look at trees as opposed when it comes to one of these multiplex sites? Will they let you remove the trees if they're in the middle of the envelope, or how does that work?
Look, I'm very pro tree. One of the reasons I live in Vancouver is because I love how green it is and how beautiful it is. They're a little bit more flexible. So we still have to have greenery, but they are allowing us to either move or take down trees. They are a little stickier if the tree is on the neighbor's lot. You got to get an agreement from the neighbor around the tree.
Yeah.
But they're much more flexible than for, say, my house. I'm trying to build a garage and my wife wanted to have it right on the property line. There was a tree there. Initially, they said we could move it. Then they said we couldn't move it because it was in the pikes or something. So now we have to build an L-shaped garage around it.
My goodness.
So I think single family homes with more land, they're not so flexible with multiplex because we're really increasing the zoning. And I think I would have to give the city and the province a lot of credit. One of the things I learned in Singapore is that you need to be practical in life. Does this policy actually work? And I would say the way they've increased densification works, because Singapore is the most livable city in the world and its density is 8.6 times Vancouver.
Right. It's all condos. Yeah.
I didn't have a car for 3 years there because it's just so easy to get around on the bus and the subways and the Ubers or whatever. That's the city you want, where you can basically walk everywhere, right? And so that's the only thing I would say. I've been frustrated sometimes with the lack of practicality in the West, but I would have to give the city and the province credit for their policies. They're starting to be practical now, and that's how you get costs down, right?
Well, let's get this, because I saw an article on the news the other day, and there was a lot of lamentation about some of the large developments, the 5-plex, 6-plex, and I want to say pushback from the neighbors saying, oh, this is no good. It's too big. It doesn't match all of these kinds of things. Do you think that's really true? Or are they just looking at sort of a half-finished project, which are all ugly, by the way? But once they're actually finished and people are living in them, I think it takes on a whole different character, right?
I would just say one thing, and this is I'm going to go off on a tangent first, and then I'm going to answer your question.
Good.
So I was very lucky to be part of something called the Singapore American Club, which is a beautiful club. We decided to do a big renovation. Okay. Things changed. It was actually in many ways better, but people were complaining all the time.
Yeah.
People don't like change.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Now, if you're looking for intergenerational fairness, in my opinion, do the people that are going to live, whether it's a new tower or a 5-plex or a 6-plex, do they get a vote or a voice, or is it only the people that are there now? You have to be intergenerationally fair if we're going to have cities. And the question I would ask these people, because this, I think, is what is happening now. Do you want to walk, drive, or fly to see your grandkids? If we don't increase density and reduce cost, you're going to be flying to see your grandkids. They're not going to live here. They're going to move to Calgary. They're going to move to other cities that are cheaper.
Yes.
And so I think my point is you need to look at it from two perspectives.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where does that gentle density, how does that actually help affordability? And how can we sort of think about that for folks that are sort of anti-change? Maybe talk about that a little bit. I feel like more ownership options at lower price points, that can't help but assist the community. But maybe you've got a different take on it as well.
Okay. Look, I think it's just basic math. I can walk you through the exact addresses, but I looked at a single family home in Vancouver West. I think it was 4.8 million for 2,800 square feet.
Yeah.
Half duplex 1550 was 2.3 million. And then we have a multiplex that was going for 1.5. We have another one that's, I think, comparable size, 1,500 square feet is about 1.8. So that's $500,000 cheaper than the duplex. No, it's half the size.
Yeah.
But it's like 1.8. That's $3 million cheaper than the single family home, right?
And let's
They're
talk
not
about
exactly
that.
the same
That's a
thing.
good point, Paul, because half the size, but not half the utility. Still got the same number of bedrooms as a lot of the sort of older homes that people gravitate towards. Certainly got nicer finishings, easier to use, easier to be in, more up to date.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah, it is half the size, but I think it's not half the utility. And in a lot of ways, I don't think you're giving up much at all by being in a smaller space.
It all goes back to, we were talking about this when we started off. We all grew up in 1,500 square foot homes. Many of us did anyway. And it works fine, right? And I think the young people today, at least with my kids, they're all in the 20s. I don't see them ever living in a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house. I mean, I just don't see it.
No.
I think they're living much more simply today. And so I think the idea with a multiplex that's 1,500 or 1,800 square feet with all the bells and whistles. Pretty nice. And you get to live in a great neighborhood in the West Side versus 4, 5, 6 million for a house. This is the new world, I think.
Andrew, my first home that I came to, there was 4 of us in a 600 square foot single wide.
And then it's what this to Singapore or Beijing or China or wherever in Asia. A lot of these people live in small little boxes. And
Yeah.
Vancouver, and they bought these massive monstrosities, these massive homes that priced so high that no one could afford them. But I think many people have all been used to growing up in much smaller dwellings. So it's getting back to basics. It's getting back to reality, I think.
For sure.
If you look at Singapore, 80% of Singapore is essentially in co-op housing.
Yeah.
They have 99-year leases. They have probably 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. For 35,000 down, you can buy a $600,000 place with 3 bedrooms. So this is, again, being practical, and they managed to keep it at 5 times income. A lot of Vancouver trades at 14 times median income.
Yes.
So we're trying to do our small part to try to make things more affordable for the next generation, but we have to have change.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the city and the province, you have to give them credit, because there's political heat, because traditionally older people like me don't want change.
Yeah.
And nobody likes change if it's imposed on them. Right?
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, if we're going to have better densification, there has to be change. Having said that, I do think, as you guys mentioned, there's smart ways to do it and dumb ways to do it. You know, you can still make the change, but you don't have to put up a 100-story tower beside the residential area, right? So I think the design can make a difference, and we do try to blend into the neighborhood. A lot of our designs, for example, let's say we've got 6 homes, we'll have in the front 2 back-to-back duplexes. When you look at that from the front, it looks like 2 houses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in the back, you've got 2 houses, and then we got 2 laneways. So from the front and from the street, it just looks like 2 houses. That's not, I don't think that's a crazy densification. And yet we put 6 families where there was 1.
That's gentle densification, conforms to the neighborhood. It looks lovely, right? As opposed to, boy,
Yes.
you live near one of these transit hubs and you're going to be next to a 30-story tower. Yikes. But yeah, I think what we're seeing across the West Side and the East Side, like we do a lot of our business in the West Side with all these multiplexes going up, is it's lovely how they're sort of conforming to the neighborhood, the streetscape. And yes, they are dwarfing some of the other houses, but things are changing. It's a changing world. We have to adapt.
And Andrew, one thing, and this is my take on it, is that we know it's working because people are buying them.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are selling, they're moving out of their big house, they're buying the half duplex or in the multifamily project, and they're voting with their dollars saying, yes, this is a thing that I like, this is a thing that I want to buy, and this is a thing that I want to live in. So I'm very much in favor of it. I think there's a million benefits to it. And like Paul, like you say, I find most of the projects that have been put together at the end, when they're finished and people are living in them, I think they're actually pretty good.
Yeah. We're really solving a problem for a lot of different people. So
Yeah.
I think when you solve, the value add in life, when you can add value to somebody else, that's how you really prosper in life, when you add value to other people.
Absolutely.
Solving a problem. You're solving a problem. Yeah, no question.
And I think if you project this 10 years out, there is going to be a lot of these. My estimate is 44,000 houses, 10%, that gives you a 4,000. Put 4 houses there, you're going to have 18,000 multiplexes.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big thing. And so I think this is really going to be the new single family home.
You know what's amazing is I've got clients and they're looking for a newer home on the West Side right now, under 5 years, single family home. And there's not much out there because they're not building them anymore, right?
No.
It's going to be a very scarce commodity going forward. A newer single family home in Dunbar. You're not going to be able to find it.
Well, and I go back, Andrew, too, is what's it going to be like to live in those neighborhoods? And if we think that, all of a sudden there'll be more kids in the schools where the populations have been shrinking, we've got more customers for those local retail corridors with the mom and pop businesses that everybody, I think, appreciates and wants to sort of keep going. More eyes on the street, more safety, adult children living closer to their parents. That's great. And a little bit more diversity in the different household types. I think all of these things blend together to say the time for this missing middle is now. Let's get building it. Let's unlock it. Let's start living in it and really get things going.
Well, I got a question for you. West Vancouver, the mayor over there, Sager, I think it's Mark Sager. I heard him in the news saying, we're not doing this. Did I hear this correct? They're not allowing the multiplexes over there, or they're definitely not pro multiplex? Because, West Van being an exclusive municipality, big properties. What are you hearing about over in West Vancouver?
Generally speaking, we want to work with municipalities that want to do multiplex because, as you guys know, and the reason we have internal project managers is because time is money in the development business, right?
Yeah.
And so you need to have a local government that is pro development, the kind of development you're doing. And so we're very careful if a particular municipality doesn't want multiplex, we'll probably wait until they do. We already have 20 projects and we're kind of at capacity already. So we're going to wait and only work in environments where there's, and there's lots of opportunities. There's, cities in the US are doing this, other cities across Canada. So as we prove the concept out in Vancouver, we will be expanding to other places to do this, but we want to make sure that we got a partner with the city.
Yeah.
And right now with Vancouver, we have a partner. We have a project manager. And that, to me, for people that plan to do development themselves, make sure you get a very good project manager because you need to turn around those permitting times very fast. You need to make sure that you're managing all your professionals, all your trades, because so much of development is having a great project manager on the permits, but also in the cost and quality, right? But so, yeah, generally speaking, we're not touching an area that doesn't want us there. That's also been my experience in life. It's always good to go to parties where people actually want you there.
Makes sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Although, Paul, for me, if I only went places I was invited, I would never go anywhere.
Same with me.
You guys are a little more extroverted than me, but it's okay.
No, I'm definitely not that. But anyhow, maybe I appear with that on video. But I've become very antisocial ever since COVID.
Yeah.
Question for you, Paul. So, the client's looking to do one of these projects, and they're out there looking at some of these 50-foot lots. And what you said about what you're looking for and what you like to avoid makes total sense. Obviously, a nice level lot, 50 feet wide, gives you sort of that 4 to 6 unit capability. Do you have sort of an easy kind of way to sort of do a pro forma on a lot when you're looking at a property to say, okay, I'm going to measure this up, and can you sort of come up with numbers pretty quick? Are there any sort of set formulas that you come up with so people can actually run the numbers quickly to figure out whether something is doable on that particular property or not?
The most important variable is the price of land because we can keep our construction costs and keep it very simple. You got three variables in there, right? You've got the land cost.
Yeah.
You've got the construction or the hard construction cost. You got the soft costs, right?
Yeah.
So the land cost is the biggest cost in Vancouver.
Right. Yeah.
Depending on the size, obviously bigger lots are better. Like we're sort of mostly in that 450 to 480 range.
Okay.
But bigger lots, you can get closer to 400. So negotiating very hard on the land is very important.
And the critical part. Yeah.
Also making sure you got a long closing date so you can start your permits, right? And make sure, again, you got that great project manager. The stuff where you don't have so much flexibility is on the soft costs, and they're quite variable.
Yeah.
Depending on what region of the city you're in. In Vancouver West, they can be quite expensive because the charges just skyrocket as you move closer to UBC, right? But you really need to be able to come in with very good hard costs. You got to be $300 a foot or less with good quality. You got to get that land costs down as much as possible, which means bigger lots. And then if you can do it fast, because you look at the biggest cost is land, then hard costs. After that, it's interest, right? And so you need to get this stuff done fast.
Yeah.
And so that's where you've really got to have your own project manager because you care about that. And the last one is the city charges, and there's not much flexibility in there, right? So, and really the only wild card, I've invested in a lot of limited partnerships, and I kind of broke a model down where I call it the pie model, which is the property a great property? Are the people you're working with, do they have integrity? Are the financial trade-offs good? Do they have a good reputation? You've really got to make sure that the people you have good integrity. One of my favorite jokes, Warren Buffett always says, when you're looking for people, you want to find 3 things: high IQ, high energy, and honesty. And if you get the first 2, but you miss the last one, you got a big problem.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that in Singapore. So
Yeah.
I've had things tied up in courts and all sorts of things. So really important that you do that. But the last one is really their expertise and their execution. Have they done this before? Because there are a lot of little problems, right? Whether it's the permitting or the building or the selling, you really need to make sure whoever you're working with ticks all those boxes. I think most people can identify a good property. You really got to watch the other two, the integrity and experience. And even now, as we're moving on to 6 projects in construction, we've learned a tremendous amount. So very important to think through that.
Architectural, that angle of it. Do you have in-house architects that sort of work with, that's all outside?
We're very lean.
Yeah.
But Randy, he's sort of design, construction, permitting guy. He really has quite an eye for design, but also what we're trying to do is design to build, right? And so it's very important that whatever we do, you're able to build it. Some architects, like my house in here, has got all these weird angles and high ceilings, and it just makes it very hard to build. We're trying to build stuff that's very practical,
very simple.
And so Randy, he's really deeply involved in it. And if you keep it to 4 units, or yes, you can use a designer instead of an architect. You still need a structural engineer, but that saves you a lot of money, right?
Right.
But you need good quality designer and architects above 6 or above 4. But really important to get the design plus the construction together, because that reduces your cost.
Okay. One question I had, you just mentioned a few minutes ago on the hard costs. Did I hear you say correctly? You want to keep it around $300 a foot? Is that what I heard?
Or lower.
Or lower. Wow. That's the construction cost.
Yes. When I first heard about this, one of my friends that was in real estate said that's impossible. You can't build on Vancouver West for less than $500 a foot.
Well, actually, that surprised me. Yeah, I didn't think you could do it for $300 a foot.
If you don't, you've got a real problem with your performance.
Okay. That makes sense.
So you really have to, and there are a lot of tricks in there because you have to keep the quality there too, right? But it comes from the very simple stuff, my wife only wants marble. Well, everything we use a good quartz, and it's all those choices. My wife wants restoration hardware. Guess what? We don't use restoration hardware.
Yeah.
And I know some Chinese developers that you guys may want to talk to at some point, and they'll get custom millwork shipped from China, right? So much stuff. Like if you really work backwards on this stuff, you can really reduce costs, right?
Save a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah. And still have the quality. Like the quality has to be there, and one of the testaments to Randy, our builder, was he built 2 duplexes, and the people that bought the duplex and they've been living in it for 2 years now, love it. They loved it so much they ended up investing with us, right?
And amazing.
And so the quality still has to be there. And we're really trying to build things that have quality, durability. And that's where, if people are interested, coming and seeing the finished product really makes a big difference.
I'm going to get down to that new one on 57th. I'm going to get in, take a peek at it because it looks fantastic from the outside. But what you're saying makes total sense. All that finishing detail is what adds up on the building cost. It's all the faucets, the bathtubs, the countertops, all the millwork. If you can do it right, that's where you can save a lot of money.
Well, you do it right, but you got to find that right cost point between quality and cost, right? The value engineering is very important. And Randy really has an eye for that stuff. Like he's not just a builder, he's got a real design eye, and he takes a lot of pride in that. Just the corners, for example, when we're doing drywall, we put metal things in there to make sure the corners are perfect. Right?
Yeah.
So that attention to detail doesn't have to cost a fortune, but it makes a big difference. And it also makes a big difference for us because we won't have to do all the after service, fix all the problems, right?
Yes.
Because we are trying to build a reputation for quality, which does matter, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Paul, let me ask you this question. So I'm sitting in a house. I'm one of Andrew and mine's clients. I've had it for 40 years. And I think, maybe this is something. I think the value, if I just want a straight sale right now, is maybe not there for me. I'd be interested in partnering with Lightwell and doing something along those lines. What kind of timeline am I looking at? And I guess how much extra value would it unlock by participating over that 3-year term?
So
giving you the answer in advance.
Sure. So generally speaking, we want that 12-month close so we can start the permits because we want to keep it capital light as much as possible, right?
Right.
So that is really important. So then we get the permits, we can build in a year. So we're done 6 houses in a year, good quality, ready to go, right? So the real wild card is really what you sell them for.
Yeah.
We won't pro forma any project unless, and the bank won't touch it either. I don't know if you guys are familiar with quantity surveyors and all those guys.
Yes.
A quantity surveyor for your audience is basically an auditor of construction costs. So when we put our pro forma together,
Yeah,
we take it to a quantity surveyor and he's going to say, yeah, a pad mounted transformer costs 160K. And he goes through all the costs. Plus the bank won't touch it unless there's a 15% profit margin there. So when you put leverage on that, you're looking at we won't even touch it until it gets to a 50% pro forma return. Now, reality and pro forma are quite different things.
Mhm.
The big difference there, of course, is your cost that you end up coming in at, which I'm very comfortable with. The wild card in this market is what it sells for and how long it takes to sell.
Yeah.
So there is risk here, but it's a short risk because really capital is only coming in for, we hope, 1 to 2 years, most likely somewhere in that range, right? Whereas I've been invested in lots of development projects where they can be 5-10 years, right? And so this is very short. So prices, you guys would be able to tell me how much can prices in Vancouver change in 1 year?
Well, as
Well-
we've seen a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
10,
Last
20%.
year-
Having
10-20% is not out of the question.
No, but having dropped 10-20% already, what's the probability that happens again?
Yeah.
Right. So it's
low.
one thing when you're here, but if you've gone here, is it really going to go here again? Particularly when a lot of the people we're talking to, they're not forced sellers.
Yeah.
They don't have a mortgage. They don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah,
so
we don't
think-
see any clients in financial difficulty. Yeah.
Yes. So look, and we're finding that the lots are getting sticky really in that 450, 480. So because we are trying to, actively look for good opportunities, a little slower now because we got 20 projects.
Yes.
But that's the question. Really, that's the wild card if you're looking at this is what's the final sale price? How long? Because remember, every day, because you're leveraged, interest charges are piling up all the time.
Yeah.
And the faster you can build, permit, sell, everything, all dependent. Now, I know you and Andrew, I'm sure, have invested in different development projects and so on. So the good, the advantage, we can go into this in detail, but I think it's a good opportunity for some people to be a partner, and some might not. But you've really got to. It really depends on your scarcity opportunity set kind of mentality.
Yeah. I
If you
think
wanna
what
do
you're saying,
it.
Paul, and this really bears itself out with most of our clients. If I'm willing to take the risk and that risk is understood and the potential gain of it makes sense, then I'll do it. And I'm probably looking at a 3-year window if I'm that person sitting in the house and thinking, okay, I want to get out of here. And if I want fast and easy, then it's just a lower price and a lot less risk for that.
And I just like to be clear, as this is a podcast.
Yes.
This is not investment advice.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm getting ready
yeah.
for my disclaimer.
And this is not investment advice. You need to talk to a financial professional licensed in British Columbia before making any financial decisions.
Yes.
This is just industry practice.
We're in a conversation.
It's a pro forma. Everyone has to look at this individually and make their own decisions with a licensed professional, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my scripted one. We want to offer relevant, actionable information. This is not, as you said, investment advice. We're better realtors and you're a better developer than accountants, lawyers, or financial advisors. We do own Vancouver real estate. We like it when prices go up. We make a fee when we help you buy or sell. And if you're enjoying this, forward to a friend.
Yeah.
I'll see.
Very good. Always important to keep that in mind. Yeah.
So start to finish, basically, if you're going to do one of these projects, we're looking at about 2 years. Does that make sense from start to finish?
Permitting is usually 9 to 12 months, and then building is about 12 months. And so, yeah, that's about right.
Okay.
And Paul, are you getting families approach you to say, hey, mom and dad here, 2 or 3 kids, we all want to live together in a nice little family compound situation. Can you just build this thing for us if we wanted to go that route?
We don't do that. So we're not a builder. So
Not a builder, just a developer.
We're hard no. So, but you can find someone to do that for you. But just remember, you need to put a personal guarantee on the cost of building those houses, right?
Right.
So you're getting $1,000 a foot. So you're building, 1,000 plus a foot at least to build, right? So just remember what you got to do if you're going to do that. It's fine, but
Probably easier if you wanted to do that, just to go and buy a complete project already built by somebody like
Yes.
Lightwell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or partner, whatever you prefer. But
Yeah.
you know, this is real risk and real execution risk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Great information.
Andrew, anything we want to add on that?
I think we've gotten some great information for our listeners, Jeff. If anyone was interested, they should visit Lightwell's website. I was on there this morning. There's some beautiful projects that you guys are working on right now. I'm going to go take a look at some of these myself, just to sort of familiarize myself. And I see them when I'm driving around, but I think you guys are doing a really first-class product.
I might just end with one perspective taking thing. I think, myself included, I think we all tend to look at the current problems we've got and we don't widen our perspective, right? You know, and I think I've mentioned this once already. Vancouver is always going to have a premium. The ocean is going to still be there and the mountains are going to be there. And if anything, if climate change is correct, we're going to have a nicer climate here. The winters are going to get milder. It's just going to continue to get better. Where can you get the best dim sum out of Hong Kong? Richmond. Where's some of the best Iranian food in the world? North Vancouver, West Vancouver.
Yeah.
Where's some of the best butter chicken? Well, it's in Vancouver or Surrey. So those communities are going to continue to grow because people want to live within their communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and CMHC recently put something together where they said Vancouver by 2035 is going to grow 300,000 people. You were asking, Andrew, where all these people are going to come for all these apartment blocks and everything. Vancouver may be not growing right now, but it's going to continue growing.
Yeah.
Canada, unfortunately, does need immigration because there are people like me with gray hair. We're below replacement already in Canada, below 2.1. So we need to have some immigration at some point. The economy is going to grow by 57 billion to like 250 billion. We have to build 25,000 homes per year just to stay even.
Yeah.
Right. Based on that, you're going to see a 26% increase in housing prices. If you get to the 25,000, how many homes are we building right now?
Very few.
You know, so I just think it's important to keep in mind, as much as we're focused, oh, there's so many problems, that my experience in markets, because I've been in markets for almost 30 years, right, is if you look back to 2009 and the great financial crisis, in 2009, March, we hit the bottom. It was actually 666, the sign of the devil. That was the bottom in the S&P 500. The news continued to be bad through all of 2009, 2010, 2011. So nobody can tell you where the bottom is, but I can tell you that the news will continue to be negative well after the market has stopped going down.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this before. Canadian real estate's gone on sale 4 times in 55 years, in the 70s and the 90s, 2009, and now. If you're going to do something, you want to do it, as Warren Buffett says, you want to be greedy when other people are being pessimistic.
Yes.
And you want to be very pessimistic when other people are being greedy. So what the sentiment is now. So I think people need to think, particularly if they're going to help the next generation, this is a very good opportunity.
Long term. Yeah. Because look at
I think I would just put that in perspective. Vancouver is going to be a great place. It'll be a better place in 2035. There'll probably be, 10,000 multiplexes by then.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In
This is the
2035, we're
future.
going to look back.
Yeah.
2026 and go, man, there was some good deals. What were people thinking? We should have bought up the whole block.
Nobody knows the future, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But if we can get the cost of living in Vancouver down, maybe there's some other creative things you can do with co-op housing and other things. I'm all for trying to help the next generation because I want to give them what I think we got, which was very good opportunities, right? And Canada certainly has that opportunity. We just got to change a few things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's not very realistic long term.
It's slowly happening.
I think the main takeaway for me on this is that gentle density that we're talking about, it's not about changing the neighborhoods wholesale. It's just about letting more people live in it without changing what makes it desirable. And I think these multiplexes and these kinds of properties are really in the way of doing that. Affordability is not just one lever. It's turnover plus supply choice. The missing middle that we've got here touches all 3 of those across Vancouver. And I think it makes it a much better place to live, even though there's some discomfort as we're sort of adjusting to change and making it work within the parameters of what we know and love about the city already, right?
And one of the things you touched on in your last podcast that I am a listener, so I thought was really important, is the concept of community. If you think of the one thing the digital age has taken away from us, it's community.
Yeah.
So many people are lonely now. I think one thing densification brings is it brings community because you see people.
Yes.
There's so much more action in the communities. Like that's one of the things I always loved about Hong Kong. There's so much action on the streets, right? And so I think that bringing the point you guys are making is so important. What makes a good life? A strong community. And
Yes.
so I think these things can really, as you've mentioned in your last podcast, help us continue to build strong communities. Right?
Listen,
So I think that's super powerful too.
it's all heading in that direction, I think. As I said, the more people you allow to live in a neighborhood, the more vibrant that neighborhood's going to become. And the more services, restaurants, coffee bars are going to open up, and it just creates a nice place to go to, right?
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about. So great information today.
Thanks a million, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to put
Thank
a
you.
pin in it there. Paul, stay on the line and we'll finish off. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we will look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for tuning in today. We appreciate your time and your attention. If we can be of further help or information, we look forward to hearing from you. We respectfully acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.